We had Jan on the podcast. She's an author and public speaker. She's spoken at DARPA, the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, and the National Convention of the ALS Association about her experience as a BCI trial participant at Pitt. She's also the author of a fictional mystery novel, which is available on Amazon.
So maybe it would be wonderful to hear about how you initially became part of this community and some of the significant milestones that you're known for.
I'm Jan Scheuermann in Pittsburgh, PA. In October 2011, I saw a video about a guy at the University of Pittsburgh who did a study that moved an electronic arm with his brain. His name was Tim Hemmes. He only had an implant for 30 days. But my attendant and I watched this video and were just so excited. And I kept thinking, oh, I wish I could do that. And at the end of the video, it said, volunteers, please call. I said to Karina, my attendant, write the number down, write it down. And she said, I already am, I know you. So as soon as the video was over, I called and I said, are you the people doing the study with the way you move a robotic arm with your brain? My words were just tumbling out on each other. They said, yeah, that's us. And I said, well, I'm a quadriplegic and I want to do that. Well, first we did a couple phone interviews to make sure I qualified. I met with the team, including the surgeon, the doctor running the study, and the scientist running the study. And they said, it should be a good candidate. They had talked to my doctor. I had met with their staff psychiatrist. He had to make sure I was the right type of person and I knew what I was getting in for. And I remember that first meeting, they said, if we get you using this robotic arm, do you have a goal in mind? Because Tim Hemmes had used it to touch his girlfriend's hand. Then she took the robotic arm as an embodiment of his hand. And it was very touching. And I knew when they asked me for my goal, they wanted me to say something like, I want to hug my children, or I want to touch my husband's cheek. And I said, well, yeah, my goal is I'd like to feed myself chocolate. And I was waiting for them to laugh, and instead they all started nodding, saying, yeah, we should be able to do that. So the surgery was February 10th, 10 years ago this week.
And Jan, how long did you have your implant for?
From February until 2.5 years later in October. So that's 2 years and 8 months, 32 months.
So I'm just curious if you had any big take-home insights from the work that you did about how you think about thinking.
I have a little saying on my desk. It says, you are more than the body you live in. And I've always believed that in my mind, but it was really brought home by this experiment. And I have a dictation program. And before my illness, I wrote and produced murder mystery parties. So I used my dictation program to then write. And I wrote a book that I posted on Kindle called Sharp as a Cucumber. And I've been writing ever since then. And I've joined a writers group, and it wouldn't have happened, I think, if I hadn't been part of this study, which made me think, oh yeah, your life doesn't stop. Your brain's still working. They have the technology that you can write now on the computer. So do that. Go for it. And I'm still writing and still grateful to the program for that.
One of the things I wanted to ask, I wanted to better understand the cognitive burden of using the BCI. Was it exhausting working in the lab? The amount of energy that it took?
No, actually, when I left the lab, I always felt energized because I was enjoying what I was doing so much. I would get home and have all this mental energy, and that's where it helped to be able to start writing again.
Let's hear more about that experience. I think you were the first to create art with Hector, right?
Okay, if you want to call it art, the program I used, I would move Hector. Hector is the name I gave my robotic arm, okay? So I would move my robotic arm in space, and that would move a pointer on the screen and make an image. But the image disappeared after maybe 60 seconds. So what I did one time was I drew the outline of a hand. And by the time I got to the pinky finger was finishing at the very beginning started to disappear. So we were able to get a screenshot of the whole hand. So I call that Hector's first self-portrait. I had a relationship with Hector, my robotic arm. We had an agreement in the lab that I got credit for all the successes. Hector took the blame for all the failures. Of course, I wrote that agreement. Hector didn't have much say in it. But when I was explanted, I went back a week later to the lab to say goodbye to Hector. And I didn't know why I thought I had to do physically, because I did it at home. It was a very difficult thing to do at home, but in my mind, I said goodbye to Hector and thanked him for all the interaction and for doing so well. And I don't know if I was saying goodbye to all the lab people in my mind, or to me, it was saying goodbye to Hector. And it was a very emotional thing for me. The pedestals on my head, which I named Lewis and Clark, I didn't have such a close relationship with them because I couldn't see them. You know, it's not like I looked in the mirror all the time. I wasn't even aware of them. So I didn't miss those. But yeah, the guy I worked with, my right hand, as it were, my right-hand man was Hector.
Well, thank you for lending your voices, because I don't think all participants are necessarily open to sharing their personal stories and the vulnerable aspects of the research and the kind of evolution of your work with these devices. So we're just really grateful that you've been so front-facing.
The handicapped community that I am in touch with in Pittsburgh, we all bristle at the word inspirational because we're so tired of being inspirations. My favorite joke is, how many handicapped people does it take to change a light bulb? It takes 5. 1 to change it and 4 to say how inspirational that was. The thing is, we're not doing it to be inspirations. This is how we're living our lives and how we're trying to contribute to science. The fact that we are inspirations is a side effect, I'll say, not necessarily benefit. The side effect, I certainly understand.
Well, I will say you have chosen to share your stories, but it is something that is important. It's really important.
Yeah, I mean, for people who are developing these technologies now, it's inspirational. I mean, puts a face to the things that they're working on that they probably know abstractly and intellectually that they're doing something useful, but this is extremely helpful. I mean, speaking just personally.